Picture this. You're checking your lottery numbers, and boom, you just won $200 million. Life-changing money, set for life money. You're probably thinking about quitting your job right now, aren't you? But here's the part that will blow your mind. Most lottery winners, they end up broke. Not just a little tight on cash, completely, utterly broke. We're talking about people who had more money than they could ever spend in 10 lifetimes. And somehow, they managed to lose it all. How does that even happen? How do you go from winning the jackpot to filing for bankruptcy? Well, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about lottery winners. It's about human nature. It's about why our brains are wired to sabotage us. And it's about lessons philosophers figured out thousands of years ago. Lessons we're still ignoring today. This isn't just a story about money. It's a mirror. And what you see in that mirror might change how you think about wealth, about happiness, and what it really means to be rich. Let's start with the dream, because we've all had it. You win the lottery. First thing you do? You quit that soul-crushing job. Tell your boss exactly what you think. Buy the mansion. Get the sports car. Take that trip around the world. Sounds perfect, right? Psychologists even have a name for what happens when someone suddenly becomes rich. They call it sudden wealth syndrome. And yes, it's real. Therapists actually treat it. Here's what happens when you go from ordinary life to millionaire overnight. Your brain short circuits. For millions of years, our minds evolved to deal with gradual changes, step by step, little improvements over time. That's how human psychology works best. But sudden massive wealth? That's like jumping from riding a bicycle to piloting a rocket ship with no training. Your brain literally doesn't know what to do with it. Let me break it down. There are three main ways sudden money betrays you. First, present bias. This is your brain's obsession with immediate gratification. When millions are sitting in your account, your brain screams, "Spend it now." It cannot comprehend long-term consequences. It's like a kid in the world's biggest candy store, with no adult supervision. Second, social comparison. When you join the wealthy, everything changes. Your million-dollar house suddenly feels small. Your luxury car feels cheap. The goalpost keeps moving. You keep upgrading, and you chase that feeling with your credit card. Third, loss aversion. This one is ironic. You'd think millions make you secure, but the fear of losing it becomes overwhelming. So what do winners do? They gamble more. They invest recklessly. They chase sure things that aren't sure at all. And here's the kicker. Money does not change who you are. It amplifies who you already are. If you are impulsive with $100, you will be impulsive with 100 million. If you make poor choices with small money, you will make catastrophic choices with big money. That's why sudden wealth so often ends in disaster. Let me tell you about Jack Whittaker. Christmas morning, 2002. Jack wins the biggest lottery jackpot in history at the time, $315 million. He seemed like the perfect lottery winner. A successful businessman, a family man, already wealthy enough to handle it responsibly. But 5 years later, Jack Whittaker said something that should haunt anyone who buys a ticket. "I wish I had torn up that ticket." What happened? His granddaughter died of a drug overdose. Drugs he blamed on the wealth and attention that came with winning. His daughter died. His wife left him. He was robbed, sued, constantly harassed. Even people he trusted stole from him. The money that was supposed to solve all his problems created problems he never could have imagined. Then there's Evelyn Adams. She didn't just win once, she won twice. New Jersey Lottery, 1985 and 1986. Total winnings, $5.4 million. You'd think winning twice would be the ultimate blessing, right? But 20 years later, Evelyn was broke, living in a trailer park. She had gambled it all away in Atlantic City. When reporters found her, she said something heartbreaking. Winning the lottery isn't always what it's cracked up to be. I won the American dream, but I lost it too. It was a very hard fall. It's called rock bottom. And these are not isolated cases. They are the rule, not the exception. William Post won 16.2 million and was 1 million in debt within a year. Suzanne Mullins won 4.2 million, took the lump sum, and was completely broke within a few years. The stories go on and on. But here's the most tragic part. This pattern was predictable. Philosophers and thinkers have been warning about the dangers of sudden wealth for thousands of years. You know what's crazy? The ancient Greeks, the Romans, and the Eastern philosophers, they all saw this coming. They understood something about human nature, something we have forgotten in our lottery-obsessed culture. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic philosopher, said it perfectly. Wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool. Think about that. Wealth isn't good or bad. It's just a tool, and like any tool, it's only as good as the person using it. When Seneca said this 2,000 years ago, he was describing exactly what we see with lottery winners today. They become slaves to their wealth. The money controls them, not the other way around. Buddhism takes it even further. It teaches that attachment to material wealth creates suffering. Not because money itself is evil, but because when your happiness depends on external things, you are setting yourself up for misery. Think about lottery winners through this lens. They attach their entire identity, their entire sense of worth, to their newfound wealth. So when problems arise, and problems always arise, their whole world collapses. Confucius taught the importance of moderation and gradual improvement. He warned that sudden dramatic changes, even positive ones, can create imbalance and chaos in a person's life. Every single one of these ancient thinkers would look at today's lottery winners and say, "We told you so." The wisdom was always there. We just stopped listening. Here's something most people don't realize about sudden wealth. It doesn't just change your bank account, it changes who you are, or at least it forces you to confront who you think you are. Psychologists call this identity shock. Your external world changes faster than your internal world can adapt. One day you are Joe the plumber, working 40 hours a week, worried about making the mortgage payment. The next day, you are Joe the millionaire, and everyone expects you to act like it. But you don't know how to be a millionaire. You don't have the mental framework, the social skills, the experience. You are the same person inside, but the world treats you completely differently. This creates a massive split inside you. Your inner self feels like an imposter. You start questioning everything. Do people like you for who you are, or for your money? Are your old friends jealous? Are your new friends real? The worst part is this. If you didn't have a strong sense of identity before the money came, suddenly having millions will just expose that emptiness. Money becomes a magnifying glass for your personal issues. I read about one lottery winner who said it perfectly. Before I won, I thought money would solve all my problems. What I discovered is that money just gave me better problems. Without a solid foundation of who you are and what you value, money becomes quicksand. The more you struggle with it, the deeper you sink. Now, let's talk about something that might mess with your head. There's been tons of research on money and happiness, and the results might surprise you. Here's what scientists have discovered. Money does buy happiness, but only up to a point. That point is about $75,000 a year. After that, additional money has what economists call diminishing returns. You get less and less happiness for every extra dollar. Why? Because once your basic needs are met, food, shelter, security, a little recreation, more wealth doesn't really change your daily emotional well-being. But lottery winners skip all the steps. They jump from whatever income they had straight to the top of the wealth ladder. Their emotions can't adapt that quickly. Think of it like this. If you've been living in darkness and someone suddenly turns on a spotlight, you're going to be temporarily blinded. Your eyes need time to adjust. Lottery winners experience emotional blindness. They expected to feel amazing, but instead they feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused. There's also something psychologists call hedonic adaptation. Basically, you get used to your new lifestyle really quickly. That mansion that felt incredible for the first month. 6 months later, it's just your house. The luxury cars, the expensive clothes, the first-class travel. It all becomes normal. But here's the problem. Your expenses have now expanded to match your lifestyle. You're spending money you never dreamed of spending on things that no longer make you happy. You're on a treadmill, running faster and faster just to feel the same level of satisfaction. And when the money starts running out, which it almost always does, the fall is devastating. You've experienced the high life, and going back feels like failure. So, if sudden money is so dangerous, what's the alternative? How do some people handle wealth responsibly while others crash and burn? The answer takes us back to those ancient philosophers. They understood something crucial. True wealth isn't about the number in your bank account. It's about wisdom. It's about character. It's about having the inner strength to handle outer success. The Stoics had a concept called preferred indifference. Money, they said, was neither good nor bad. It was indifferent. What mattered was how you used it. A wise person could be happy with millions or with nothing. A foolish person would be miserable regardless of their wealth. This isn't just philosophy talk. It's practical psychology. The Stoics were basically saying, develop yourself first, then worry about developing your bank account. Buddhism teaches something similar through the idea of non-attachment. It's not that you can't have money or nice things. It's that your happiness can't depend on them. When you're not attached to wealth, you can use it wisely. When you are attached, it controls you. Modern psychology now confirms these ancient insights. Successful wealth management, whether you earn it gradually or get it suddenly, requires emotional intelligence, impulse control, and long-term thinking. In other words, inner wealth must come before outer wealth. You need to build the psychological infrastructure to handle money before the money arrives. Otherwise, you're building a mansion on quicksand. All right, so let's get practical. Say you actually do win the lottery tomorrow. How do you avoid becoming another cautionary tale? First, treat money as a tool, not a savior. Money can't fix your relationships, cure your depression, or give your life meaning. If you had problems before the money, you will still have them after. Money might change the scenery, but it won't change the movie. Second, build systems, not impulses. The lottery winners who stay wealthy don't rely on willpower. They create systems. They hire financial advisors, set up automatic savings, create budgets they stick to. They make it harder to access their money impulsively. Third, develop what I call wealth wisdom before you need it. Read about money management. Study the psychology of spending. Understand your own emotional triggers around money. Practice delayed gratification with the money you have now, even if it's not much. Fourth, remember that your identity isn't your net worth. Whether you have $1,000 or $1,000,000,000, you are still the same person with the same values, relationships, and character. Don't let money define you. Fifth, understand the responsibility that comes with wealth. Money is power, and power corrupts unless you are intentional about using it well. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of world you want to create. Here's the truth most people miss. The skills you need to handle sudden wealth are the same skills you need to handle any level of money responsibly. If you can't manage a $1,000 windfall wisely, you won't be able to manage a $1,000,000 windfall either. Start practicing now. With whatever money you have, whatever decisions you face, practice being the kind of person who makes good financial choices. Because character is what you do when nobody's watching, and money has a way of putting everything under a spotlight. So, here we are at the end of our journey into the psychology of lottery winners. And I want you to think about something. Every time you hear about someone winning the lottery, there is probably a part of you that thinks, lucky bastard, that should be me. But now you know the truth. Now you know that sudden wealth is often sudden disaster in disguise. The next time you hear about a lottery winner, don't just envy them. Ask yourself a harder question. If millions of dollars dropped into my life tomorrow, would I be ready? Would I have the wisdom to handle it? The character to use it well? The emotional intelligence to not let it destroy my relationships? Or would I become another statistic? Another cautionary tale of someone who had everything and lost it all? Because here's the real truth nobody wants to admit. The lottery isn't really about money. It's a mirror. It reflects who you really are, strips away the excuses and limitations, and shows your true character. Some people look in that mirror and see wisdom, discipline, and purpose. Others see impulsiveness, neediness, and emptiness. The money doesn't create these qualities, it just reveals them. And sometimes, what we see in that mirror is scarier than being broke ever was. But here's the good news. You don't need to win the lottery to start building real wealth. You don't need millions to develop the character, wisdom, and emotional intelligence that would help you handle millions. You can start today with whatever you have, wherever you are, by asking yourself the most important question of all. What kind of person do I want to be? And then becoming that person, one decision at a time. Because at the end of the day, true wealth isn't about having enough money to buy anything you want. It's about being the kind of person who doesn't need to buy anything to feel complete. And that kind of wealth, that's a jackpot you can win every single day. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best investment you can make isn't in stocks, bonds, or even lottery tickets. It's in yourself.